welcome you to this Bible study of the Banking Blessings Ministry. My name is Goodluck Ofewu, and this is my wife.
I'll be your favor.
We welcome you to our continuing study on the life of David during the period between his anointing to be king of Israel and his actually becoming king of Israel. We are using the period to learn, to understand what David did as he waited to be made king of Israel, as he waited for fulfillment of God's promise to him that he will be king of Israel. We have gone through several episodes of the study and saw that David, as he was preparing himself to be king, he got into trouble with Saul and got to the point of departing from Saul. He ran away from Saul. Then he didn't stop there. Saul mobilized the army and went after David. In this Bible study, we are going to look at two situations in which David had a close encounter with Saul. Saul came very close, within proximity of David. David, in fact, had the opportunity to kill Saul if he wanted, but he made a decision not to kill Saul. And we're going to look at that decision, try to understand the principles that may have informed that decision, and then look at what happened at the end.
Yeah, it's another interesting topic we want to look at today. As always, I know that the Lord always has something to say to us. So I hope you all stay tuned and be blessed.
Okay, so let's get right into it. And what we're going to learn is that David was guided by his understanding of what is right and just, his commitment to doing what is right and just in his interactions with Saul. And to understand this, we look back when God kind of declared this mandate as he talked to angels about Abraham. He described what Abraham, essentially he described why he selected Abraham to be the father of the Messiah lineage, and that he selected Abraham because, well, I don't want to jump ahead here, but in describing this to the angels, he actually announced an important mandate for people that every person should live according to his ways by doing what is right and just, so that he will fulfill his promises. He was speaking about Abraham, of course, but what he spoke applies to every human being. So David was committed to doing what is right and wrong, and what is right and just. And it is this commitment that, of course, that has to be interpreted in a given situation. What does it really mean? And for him, what it meant was that he wanted to avoid any situation of having to lift his hand against Saul. He didn't want to kill Saul. He didn't want to get into a battle with Saul because he might have to kill to avoid being killed. So his strategy in his interactions with Saul, when Saul was pursuing him, was to stay away from Saul, to run away from Saul. And to test this strategy, Saul was given to him twice on a platter of gold, in a situation where he could have killed Saul if he wanted. And strategically, one would say, why not? Saul was his enemy at this point. That he didn't look at Saul as an enemy. He looked at Saul as an enemy only to the extent that he needed to get away from him. But he wasn't an enemy that he pursued to kill. So that was different. The enmity was one-sided. But we are going to first of all look at Genesis chapter 18, verse 19, really, to see where, when God talked to the angel about Abraham and tried to learn something from there about God's mandate to every human being. And then our readings for the interactions between Saul and David will come from 1 Samuel chapter 24 and chapter 26. Well, we'll start with the mandate, and this is a declaration that God made regarding Abraham, that he said he chose Abraham because Abraham will raise his offspring to live according to what is right and just. That is, to live according to the ways of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that God will fulfill his promises to Abraham. There are a lot of things that come out of this. One is that, then Abraham, if he was going to bring up his children, if he's relied on to bring up his children to know what is right and wrong, what is right, to do what is right and just, then he himself understands. He was chosen because he understood what was right and just, and he lived according to that. And this is why God chose him, so that he will pass this on to his children. And it is necessary for him to pass this on to his children, because it's important that they live according to what is right and just, in order that God will fulfill the promise he made to Abraham. Because the promise will be fulfilled among future generations of Abraham's offspring. So what essentially what this is telling us is that God is saying that a guiding principle for living according to his ways, for living in his image, is to do what is right and just. Of course, that sounds general, but what it means is that in every situation, you have to understand the meaning of what is right and just, and then live according to that understanding. Respond to the situation according to the understanding. Let us read this from Genesis 18, verses 18 and 19. The message is actually in verse 19, but 18 sort of gives the background.
So we're reading Genesis chapter 18, verse 18. I'm reading from the NIV. Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him, to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him.
Yeah. So that's just the background, and now let us just summarize that. What does it mean? That for every situation, you need to understand the meaning of right and just for that situation. And then you respond to the situation to uphold the meaning of right and just. And sounds abstract, but we're going to look at an example, two examples from interactions between Saul and David. Well, we know about that David revered Saul as the God's anointed king of Israel. Because of that, he did not want to, because he lay a hand on Saul, and he didn't want to kill Saul, basically. He didn't want to hit Saul, he didn't want to strike him, he didn't want to try to kill him. He didn't want to get into a battle with him, because in a battle, then he will have to kill or be killed. That's usually what happens in a battle. So this is why he adopted the strategy of keeping away from Saul, running away from him. So for him, reverence to Saul or revering Saul was right and just. That's his understanding of what right and just means with respect to the interaction between him and Saul. That he will not lay hand on Saul, he will not strike Saul, he will not try to kill him, he will not get into a battle with him. And this become a guiding principle in his relationship with Saul, and you find that whatever happened between them, that this guiding principle was uppermost. In fact, the two examples we're going to look at, you see that David took it upon himself to explain it to his followers, to explain to them why he would not lift his hand against Saul. And we're going to look at the two examples. One of them, the first one, was an interaction at the cave of Engedi. David and his followers were in this cave in the area called Engedi. They were well inside the cave, hiding and at the same time resting. Saul and his people came around. They were looking for David. Saul had 3,000 men with him in a very strong, numerically strong army. And when they got to the area of this cave, he decided to go in there to rest a little. And while in the cave, he didn't know, he and his men didn't know that David and his men were in the cave. But David and his men realized when Saul and his people entered, they knew that Saul was inside the same cave with them. And they considered that an opportunity for David. And they actually told David and said, hey, this is the occasion that God spoke about when he said that he was going to give your enemies into your hand. Then David crept up behind Saul and cut off the tip of his garment, just cut off a piece of cloth from his garment. He did that to leave an evidence of his presence very close to Saul, that he was able to creep up close to Saul without Saul knowing and without his followers knowing. Which means, hey, if I wanted to kill you, this was my opportunity. I would have killed you. But when he got back to safety with his people, they kind of wondered why he didn't kill Saul and maybe advised him or blamed him or something. Then at that point he explained to them that Saul is the king of Israel, the God-anointed king of Israel, and that he would not, that nobody, that anybody that stretches his hand against the God-anointed king would not be guiltless. We'll read, this is better expressed in the Bible, but essentially it was saying that he would not strike. In fact, he felt bad that he went as far as cutting off a tip from his garment. He felt that was going too far. But the important thing is he explained to his people that that it is wrong. It is that it will not be right or just for him to strike Saul or for him to kill Saul, because Saul was the God-anointed king of Israel. Let us read about this. It's from 1 Samuel 24 verses 1 through 15.
First Samuel chapter 24, reading from verse 1. After Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, he was told, David is in the desert of Engedi. So Saul took 3,000 able young men from all Israel and set out to look for David and his men near the crags of the wild goats. He came to the sheep pens along the way. Along the way, a cave was there, and Saul went in to relieve himself. David and his men were far back in the cave. The men said, "This is the day the Lord spoke of when he said to you, I will give your enemy into your hands for you to deal with as you wish." Then David crept up unnoticed and cut off a corner of Saul's robe. Verse 5. Afterward, David was conscience-stricken for having cut off a corner of his robe. He said to his men, "The Lord forbid, that I should do such a thing to my master, the Lord's anointed, or lay my hand on him, for he is the anointed of the Lord." With these words, David sharply rebuked his men and did not allow them to attack Saul. And Saul left the cave and went his way. Then David went out of the cave and called out to Saul, "My lord the king." When Saul looked behind him, David bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground. He said to Saul, "Why do you listen when men say David is bent on harming you? This day you have seen with your own eyes how the Lord delivered you into my hands in the cave. Some urged me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, I will not lay my hand on the Lord, on my Lord, because he is the Lord's anointed." Verse 11. "See, my father, look at this piece of your robe in my hand. I cut off the corner of your robe, but did not kill you. See that there is nothing in my hand to indicate that I am guilty of wrongdoing or rebellion. I have not wronged you, but you are hunting me down to take my life. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge the words you have done, the wrongs you have done to me. But my hand will not touch you." I have something going to my eyes. Okay. Verse 13. As the old saying goes. Okay, let me take it from 12 again. Okay. "May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge the wrongs you have done to me. But my hand will not touch you." Verse 13. As the old saying goes, from evildoers come evil deeds, so my hand will not touch you. Against whom has the king of Israel come out? Who are you pursuing? A dead dog? A flea? May the Lord be our judge and decide between us. May he consider my cause and uphold it. May he vindicate me by delivering me from your hand.
Yeah. Okay, so before we go into the next one, just a little more information that, as we said earlier, the enmity between Saul and David was really one-sided. Saul was pursuing David to kill him. David was running away from Saul. And here we find that when David had the opportunity to kill Saul, we find that he really did not want to kill Saul. He didn't want to harm Saul in any way because he had all this respect for Saul as the God-anointed king of Israel. He had his respect for Saul was based on his understanding of what is right and just, that he cannot stretch his hand against the God's anointed. We are going to see later on Saul's response we didn't read. We are going to pick a few from it later, because what happened eventually was that, David didn't kill Saul, but Saul actually conceded the kingship to him. People wanted David to kill Saul in order to clear his way to becoming king of Israel. He didn't do that, but Saul, in fact, conceded to him in the presence of several witnesses, in the presence of all his men, in the presence of all the people around that could hear his conversation with David. And it was a loud conversation because David was at a safe distance from Saul. So whoever was there was a witness. So it was a clear concession to David that, hey, I know that you are going to be the next king of Israel. So David didn't kill Saul to clear his way, but he got something that was very important. A similar incident occurred in the desert of Ziph. Again, Saul was looking for David. This was after the first encounter where, because of the way David treated him, Saul promised he wasn't going to harm David anymore. Well, his promise didn't go deep because he came back looking for David. And this time he set up a camp very close to where David and his men were. But he didn't know. And David and his men knew that Saul and his people had set up a camp. His 3,000 men had set up a camp near them. So in the night, David went into their camp with one of his followers and found Saul deep asleep. All the people that were supposed to be protecting him were also sleeping. All he did was he took his spear and a water jug again to show that he was there and that he could have killed him if he wanted. The man that was with David promised he would just strike Saul once and he would die. And David said, no, you cannot stretch your hand against the Lord's anointed. In fact, he asked it like a question and said, who will stretch his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? Let us read this from 1 Samuel chapter 26, verses 1 to 12.
1 Samuel 26, verse 1. The Ziphites went to Saul at Gibeah and said, is not David hiding on the hill of Hakilah, which faces Jeshimon? So Saul went down to the desert of Ziph with his 3,000 select Israelite troops to search for David. Paul made his camp beside the road on the hill of Hakilah, facing Jeshimon, but David stayed in the wilderness. When he saw that Saul had followed him there, he sent out scouts and learned that Saul had definitely arrived. Verse 5. Then David set out and went to the place where Saul had camped. He saw where Saul and Abner, son of Ner, the commander of the army, had lain down. Saul was lying inside the camp, with the army encamped around him. Verse 6. David then asked Ahimelech the Hittite and Abishai, son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, who will go down into the camp with me to Saul? I'll go with you, said Abishai. Verse 7. So David and Abishai went to the army by night, and there was Saul, lying asleep inside the camp with his spear stuck in the ground near his bed, and Abner and the soldiers were lying around him. Abishai said to David, today God has delivered your enemy into your hands. Now let me pin him to the ground with one thrust of the spear. I won't strike him twice. But David said to Abishai, don't destroy him. Who can lay a hand on the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? Verse 10. As surely as the Lord lives, he said, the Lord himself will strike him, or his time will come and he will die, or he will go into the battle and perish. Verse 11. But the Lord forbid that I should lay a hand on the Lord's anointed. Now get the spear and water jug that are near his head, and let's go. Verse 12. So David took the spear and water jug near Saul's head, and they left. No one saw or knew about it, nor did anyone wake up. They were all sleeping because the Lord had put them into deep sleep.
Yeah, so once again, you see what happened there. David went there to make it known to Saul and his people that he was there. Because he took his spear and his water jug, but he would not harm Saul in any way. It's not only that he won't harm Saul, but he used that opportunity to explain to Abishai, to explain to his followers, the reason why he would not take Saul's life. Who will stretch his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless?
Yeah.
He did this because he believed that was what was right and just.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in the two cases, actually, as I said earlier, David had opportunity to kill Saul to clear his way to becoming king of Israel. That's naturally what he would have done. That is the military strategy will call for him to do that, or political strategy, in fact. But he had a higher purpose, something that told him, no, you cannot do that because this man is God's anointed. And he explained that it's not up to him, it will be up to God to kill him, to get rid of him in his own way. But he, David, would not do that. Well, after Saul found out what happened, where David alerted Saul in both cases. In the first one, he went out, called him. The same thing in the second one, he went out and called back to his camp. So each time he was calling from a safe distance where they could not come and get him. But he had a good interaction with Saul, because Saul really felt bad that he was pursuing David, that he had this one-sided enmity. He was trying to kill David, but David had the opportunity to kill him and would not even touch him, would not scratch him. So he felt bad, but also in the process of trying to, I don't know if I'll call it confess that he didn't like what he was doing, he, for the first time, conceded openly in the presence of all the people that could hear him, and there were at least 3,000 people with him and about 600 people with David. In the presence of all these people, he conceded the kingship to David. We're going to read it from the Bible so that the words, you can hear the words very clearly. In one case, it's a concession of the kingship. In another case, it's also a concession, but it was spoken in somewhat different kind of, he was talking about David's success in life instead of kingship specifically. But let us read 1 Samuel 24, 16 to 17 and 20 to 22, and then 26, verse 17, 21 and 25. Yeah, so the first, this is because there were two encounters, so the first set of reading is from Saul's response in the first encounter, and the second set of reading is from his response in the second encounter.
1 Samuel 24, verse 16. When David finished saying this, Saul asked, "Is that your voice, David, my son?" And he wept. And he wept aloud. "You are more righteous than I," he said. "You have treated me well, but I have treated you badly. I know that you will surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel will be established in your hands."
Yeah.
21. Now swear to me by the Lord that you will not kill off my descendants, or wipe out my name from the from my father's family. Verse 20.
22.
Verse 22. So David gave his oath to Saul. Then Saul returned home, but David and his men went up to the stronghold.
Okay. So this was the end of the first encounter. David had, talked to Saul. We read what David said. We didn't read Saul's response, but we are just selecting from the response. And these selections are important because you can see here in verse 20, he said he acknowledged that he knows David will be the next king of Israel, and in fact that the kingdom will be established in him, in his hands. Then he asked David to be kind to him, essentially. So this was a concession. He conceded the kingship to David in the presence of 3,600 men, at least, from Israel. 3,600 witnesses. Then in the second encounter, he did something similar.
1 Samuel 26, verse 17. Saul recognized David's voice and said, "Is that your voice, David, my son?" David replied, "Yes, it is, my lord the king." Then Saul said, "I have sinned. Come back, David, my son, because you considered my life precious today. I will not try to harm you again. Surely I have acted like a fool and have been terribly wrong." Then Saul said to David, "May you be blessed, David, my son. You will do great things and surely triumph." So David went on his way, and Saul returned home.
Yeah. So in this case, the concession was not as clear as in the first one, but you can see here, he blessed David and then said, "You will do great things and you will surely triumph." So this was a concession by itself. Earlier, of course, there was the promise saying, "Look, you can come back now and I'm never going to harm you again." Well, this is that basically is the lesson. David had an opportunity to kill Saul. He didn't kill Saul because for him, what is right and just is that he should not stretch his hand against God's anointed. He didn't, the common sense would have said, well, it's what we call common sense, people sense, would have said, hey, kill this man, because once you kill him, you are part to the kingship will clear. Well, he didn't kill him, but he got something more important because Saul conceded the kingship to David in the presence of several witnesses.
Yeah, it's really quite interesting for these two accounts of interaction between Saul and David. There are quite a few things for us to learn that that will be real life application in our situation. Yeah. And if we look at how David, from the study as you were presenting, you kept saying the enmity was one-sided. Yes, it was obvious it was one-sided. But David was not, in today's world, even if David did nothing to harm Paul or to retaliate, but the same, he was not passively aggressive towards Saul. He was not wishing Saul evil.
Yeah.
The best he could always say was, "Let God judge between me and you."
Yeah.
And let God be the judge. And this is very remarkable because, one, he didn't want to harm Saul because he said, Saul is the Lord's anointed. It is the Lord himself that anointed Saul. and that he will not lay his hand on the Lord's anointed. Despite all the terrible things, and despite the fact that they knew that the Lord has departed from Saul.
Yeah.
Now, God made it clear to us that when he calls a person, maybe our pastors and our priests and the clergy whom God have called, that to discipline them is his job, not our own. It's not the job of us, the followers or the people, to discipline the Lord's anointed. These days, when we see that a man of God has made a mistake, and let me just start with the clergy. When we see that a man of God has made a mistake, or has fallen into one temptation or the other, the first thing we do is to cry, kill him, prosecute him, persecute him. We make public show and public, debacle, whatever, we just make a public show of that servant of God. And we want to become judged by ourselves.
Yeah.
We persecute them to the point where they either abandon that calling or they are forced to do something that, it's that will equate to maybe abdicating their office, or they can no longer function. But God specifically is an instruction, and that is why David kept saying it's not just a moralistic thing, it's the instruction from God. He said, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. Even when they have fallen, it is God himself that disciplines them. We have pastors all over the place now, maybe things they did before they actually became, they grew in the spirit, or, when they, somehow those things come out when they do, or even the present things they do. We begin to become the judge and the jury, and we begin to, castigate them and judge them. But David here reminded us that judgment is for God to do. And he said, and maybe because of what you have done, God will strike you. It wasn't David going to punish him.
Yeah.
He said, maybe because of what you're doing to me, God will punish you. And believe you me, God never leaves them. He flogs them with many stripes. He flogs them with many stripes. So this is something we have to know about, not just the clergy, not just our relationship with our pastors and the anointed men of God, even for leadership, rulers that God has appointed unto a land. Is not, vengeance shouldn't be ours.
Yeah.
It's God's own. David clearly stated it here.
Yeah.
And it's there in the Bible.
Yeah.
That we should leave revenge for God. That is one thing. The second thing that pertains to us here in real life application is, if we look closely, we'll see that David kept revering Saul despite the hostility. It's not just ordinary hostility. If Saul caught David, David would be a dead meat.
Kill him. Yeah.
So it's not just hostility, like, oh, he doesn't like me. This is, he wants to kill David. He carries 3,000 men, the best Israel could afford, to go and look for David, to catch him and kill him. And David knew that. So David never stopped reverencing Saul.
Yeah.
He always called him my Lord and my King. He never for us human beings, we would have said, that man he's not, he wants to kill me. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to do. But we're seeing an example in the Bible.
Yeah.
And why I'm mentioning this is that It is only when our own obedience is complete that God can work on our behalf. But when we say we are going to do those things by ourselves, God will just be looking at us. And his protection might even depart from us. But look at, throughout this thing, God's protection was with David.
Yeah.
He protected David. If God didn't protect David, Saul would have caught him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
A clear one was when Saul had to go back. They said, oh, Philistines are in the camp, and
Yeah.
he had to go back.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing was, David, when Saul, was delivered into his hands in that cave at Engedi. If you check, there's a sharp contrast between when a similar thing happened to Saul, when David was close by. Saul said, your own is finished today. God has delivered you into my hands.
Yeah.
And it was at that point Saul said, they called Saul to go back. The Philistines were around. But this one, other people told David that, God has suddenly delivered this one. But he said, no, I will not do it. So let's not let peer pressure or pressure from crowd make us to take leave of doing what is right.
Yeah.
Because David could have given in to the pressure of his own 600 men. Or how many were there?
Yeah, 600 is.
Who obviously, he just didn't kill Saul, but he made sure they didn't touch him.
Yeah.
So, when we do things and we say, oh, they made me do it. Oh, always let's try and listen to our own conscience in trying to do what is right, just and right.
Yeah. So
that we don't give in to peer pressure or give in to expectation of what the crowd wants us to do. Let's always weigh it. I think that these are some of the things that I was able to glean from this. And believe you me, God, this is why, part of the reason why David was the man after God's heart. Not many people, not many normal human beings will do what he did. And God still gave him that throne. His goal was still to be king of Israel. He still got it without killing Saul.
Yeah.
So sometimes we say, oh, the end justifies the means. Kill Saul and get to be king. It's not so. It's not, the end will not always justify the means. You have to look at the process. Is it fair? Is it right? Is it just? Before you come to the end. The process you used in achieving the goal is equally as important as the goal. I think that's one thing I want to bring out here.
Yes, and it's important in worshiping God because God made it very clear that He expects us to do what is right and just. And you have to do that in order to expect Him to fulfill His promises for you. We thank you for joining us in this Bible study. And we pray that you will learn something from our Bible study series that will make a positive impact on your life and will bring you closer to God's purpose for your life. Thank you, and God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you for joining us.